One of the most important things that I teach is that this practice needs to be embodied. We live in a body. Okay, week number 2, we learned that. So I want to ask you, when you get paid, okay, so start to think about this now. When you get paid, start to go into your body, and I want you to feel the visceral reaction when you get paid. So think about, how you get paid. Think about it maybe coming up on your screen or whatever it is, or if you still get paper checks or whatever it is, or if you write yourself your own paychecks. Start to notice what happens in your body. Notice what happens with your breathing. Notice what happens in your posture. Notice what happens in your movement. So just start to feel what goes on when you get paid. Number 2, what happens when you start to think about getting paid? Okay, what are the thoughts that go through your mind when you start thinking about receiving and getting paid? Okay, and so write me in the comments, because that's how you're going to start to realize what's going on, and write it down just like as a free flow. Don't think about what you should be thinking. What comes to your mind, first impression, okay? This is really important, because that's really what's running the show. If you kind of come up with the philosophical, what you think you should answer, you're going to be missing, the actual juicy work. Okay, number 3, what do you see yourself doing when you're getting paid? So just close your eyes, and what's the first impression? Write it down, okay? Now, when you spend money, right? Whenever you take out your credit card, when you take out your wallet, when you spend money, right? What happens? Hey, Paige. Paige is here. Hello, Paige. Okay, when you spend money, again, what happens viscerally? Okay, so just imagine maybe the last time you pulled out your credit card and you were spending money. What happens? And maybe because this is to do with your business, start to think about that. And if you're starting a business, anything that you've invested for learning about your business, what happens to your body? What happens viscerally in your body? I want you to feel it when you start to pay for things. Okay, so just imagine yourself now. What are the thoughts that run through your head? Super important. Watch this. And again, first impression, write down what comes first to your mind. And what do you see yourself doing? Okay? So if I'm going too fast, really, these workshops are here. You can always come back, because you want to spend time with these things. Okay? Now, question number 2. When you think about your bank account, okay, when you think about your bank account, I want you to listen to these statements, okay, no judgment, just listen to these statements and tell me and let me know if any of these feel or ring true for you. And again, first impression. Number 1, I don't have enough. So when you think about your bank account, does this ring true for you? I don't have enough. Number 2, they don't pay me enough. Number 3, I can't seem to figure it out. I can't seem to figure out how to increase that amount. Okay? Or number 4, I have more than enough. This is great. Like, my bank account is like overflowing. Wonderful. Okay? So again, when you think about your bank account, let me know which rings true for you. Write me in the comments. Okay? And again, just to let it come out so that you can start to be conscious of it. Otherwise, it's going to run in the background and it's going to continue to affect you. Right? So I don't have enough. See if that feels true for you. They don't pay me enough. They don't pay me enough. Good. Hey, Marie-France. Okay. I can't seem to figure it out. I can't seem to figure out how to make more money. Right? Or I have more than enough. And again, answer the one that first comes to you. Don't answer the one where you think, oh, this is the right answer to answer. Okay. That's not going to get us anywhere. All right. So just first impression. Now, let's review our answers just to start to look deeper into, what's happening. Okay. Ooh, Tracy says, number 4, but since I only have actively got rid of debt, yes, COVID was good for that. Yes. So this is a recent feeling. Nice. Okay. And Marie-France says 1 and 2. Okay. So she says, I don't have enough and they don't pay me enough. And I love your honesty. And this is really how we're going to work through this, guys. So that's beautiful. I love that. Okay. So, and I love how Tracy's like, okay, yeah, this is just as a recent feeling, but good. Okay. So good. Let's continue. So now the answers, when you get paid, what happens viscerally? So you all are body workers here in this, up in here in this group, the discipline of business and yoga. So what happens, right? When you start to think about getting paid, what happens viscerally? What happens to your posture? What happens to your movement? What's your facial expression? How do you breathe? What's the grip or the expansion that happens in your body? Notice that. Write it down. Let me know. Okay. And again, we talked about what are the thoughts and what do you see yourself doing. Now, one thing that is important is that wealth, and to understand wealth, is another word for well-being. Okay, pages 1 and 2. Thank you, Paige. Okay, wealth is another word for well-being. So what we need to understand, super duper important, and I mentioned that at the beginning, money does not change you. Okay, money does not change you. We have some sort of like fake assumption that our current reality, sometimes what happens is our current reality is like sucky, and that reality over there is the better reality. Okay, so sometimes you ever feel that way? So especially when you think about money, you're like, when I make more money, oh, that's gonna be like, my life is gonna be better. Okay, so just notice if you have that false assumption that right now is kind of shitty and then over there is going to be better. Okay, just notice that. And again, no judgment. We all have had that. Okay. And Tracy says, when I get paid, my shoulders relax, more lower. If it happens to be upward from stress. Okay, good. And again, there's always different, like, you know, depending on your states of being. So I like that you mentioned that, Tracy. Okay. So what's important is that I'll tell you a story about one of my clients. Okay, so one of her things was every time she started moving towards making more money, towards more clients, what would happen viscerally, okay, and it would be a full out something that would happen in her body. She'd either have some kind of elbow pain, she'd have some kind of knee pain, she'd have some kind of rib pain, and this was sort of this like unconscious thing that would start to happen. And her story was, okay, now I got to go fix this, you know, I got to work on my business, but let me first fix what's going on in my body. Okay. And so then what we realized is that she would unconsciously sabotage sabotage, you know, making money by preoccupying herself with her physical body. Right? So her visceral thing was, okay, and then this is unconscious, and just notice if these have been patterns for you as well. Something would happen physically to her, and then all of a sudden she would start spending her money and starting spending her time on, you know, fixing something physical that was happening. The story would happen in her head is like, okay, she would be in this problem-solving reality, and I talk about this a lot. I learned this from my mentor, Chris Duncan. Like, oh, let me fix that, because when we're in the problem-solving reality, it's very seductive because we feel like we're doing something, right? And as human beings, we kind of like the idea of doing and progressing, okay? But the problem with the problem-solving reality, which I talk about a lot, is that we're constantly in a problem, right? It's like, oh, I don't have money, I'm stressed. When I have money, I'm relieved, okay? Current reality, the solution. And then what's going to happen for those of us who have that, what's going to happen is like, okay, I don't have money, there's a problem. I do have money, yes, there's a solution. And guess what? It's just going to keep on going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Because we can't create the wealth, the prosperity, the abundance we want from coming from a place where we're running away from and when we're trying to fix a problem. Okay, so I'm going to repeat that. We can't create, so there's the problem reality and there's the creation reality. And it's very difficult. And sometimes we just don't even realize we're in problem-solving reality. Actually, most of us happen to spend a lot of time there, especially if you're very heady in the left brain. And even spiritual entrepreneurs who are very embodied, but yet we kind of sometimes also think that we always need to heal ourselves. And we continue to stay in that problem solution reality, thinking we're actually getting somewhere when we're really just in that reality. And then what happens is that we don't actually focus on what we want to create. So if you were to work with me, one of the things I teach you guys is to understand, well, what is your zone of genius? We start to discover that, you know? What is your expertise? We start to distill that. And we start to allocate your attention out of the problem reality that we think we have, and move it into creation mode. Because one thing that happens, and let me just continue the story with my client, this happens, and I mentioned this, where these imprints of our money blocks and our money stories are imprinted in our physical body, imprinted in our mind, imprinted into our energetic system, even almost before we even realize. So when my client was younger, one of the things that she was praised for was her perfection in her grades, really good grades, her perfection in her beauty, her perfection in her ballet like alignments. And so what happened is she started to build an identity structure around that identity. There are 6 false identity structures that are kind of the ones that you are, that thing that you're kind of running away from, thinking, okay, if I run away from this further enough and I fix it enough, I heal it enough, then I'm finally going to find the solution to be, you know, more abundant and more healthy and more wealthy. So what would happen is, so the 6 identity structures are, and I've mentioned this before, and I've mentioned a whole training, you can look down below. It's the one thing you need to create, the life you love. Okay, so look down, there's a whole training, but I'm just gonna go quickly. Number 1, see which one resonates for you. I am not enough. Number 2, I am not worthy. Number 3, and it's not in any order, I am not capable. I am not perfect. I am not significant. I don't belong. Okay? So for my client, it was I am not perfect. So what she was doing was she was continuing to find solutions around solving the problem of being perfect. Let me know if this is making sense. Do you see that? So what was happening is there was this constant false identity structure, and in this problem-solving reality that she was unconsciously driving her life and her business. So all of these like little ailments that would happen was this unconscious, like, okay, it's this unconscious, like there needs to be this problem, that there's something, you know, imperfect about my body, and I'm gonna find the solution to find that perfection. So when I find the perfect, healing modality, the perfect physiotherapist, the perfect, routine in the morning, then finally I'm gonna address the solution of finally being perfect. Let me know if this resonates for any of you, okay? And then we start to realize, okay, but let's start to take your energy out of that problem solving and out of trying to, figure out how we can find perfection. And it's not like she was consciously doing it. It's not like she was doing this on purpose. It's not like she actually knew this was happening. This is what happens on the unconscious. That's why we want to work with our money blocks. Otherwise, we're going to work for them, okay? And we started to put her energy and her attention to what she wanted to create. And we first start looking at what is her zone of genius. And so as an entrepreneur, you want to look at that. What is your zone of genius? What do you absolutely love? Okay. What makes you money? And what is the thing that is like you're amazing at? It's like you're in flow. You just know that's your thing. Okay. And let me just read Tracy. She says, I definitely there with perfection in a variety of areas. But since menopause, I have learned to stand back. It's beautiful. Okay? So it's sort of to just understand, 1, if you're in problem-solving reality. 2, if you're constantly trying to fix that, and it's almost like you can't create from something that's back there, right? Because it's something that was created in the past, and you're running over there. It has to be something where you're anchored from here, this current reality, and you're moving towards it. Okay? So if you understand this is your current reality, right? And you understand, okay, I make X amount of dollars in my bank account, and I would like to make X amount of dollars. Maybe I want to double that or triple that by next year. That's you're moving towards, okay? And even before you think of your number, because again, the amount doesn't change you. You want to start to build upon your zone of genius, because your zone of genius, hey Ka, your zone of, I don't know if I'm saying your name right, so hopefully, anyway, if we get to talking, let's clear that up, okay? But your zone of genius, right? When we allow ourselves and we start to reallocate that energy out of problem-solving reality into creation mode, what we start to understand is that when we start to reside in our zone of genius, the thing that we love, the thing that makes us money, and the thing we're absolutely excellent at, amazing at, it becomes a natural byproduct. Money becomes a natural byproduct. So what started to happen with my client, as she started putting more energy into her zone of genius, into the things she was really good at. She's really good at customer relationships. She was really good at being the creative director of her business. She was really good at seeing what types of services and packages worked well for people, and what types of in her products, like what worked well together as a service, as a package. And then what started to happen is just miraculously, she started to release and not have these knee pains, or I'm saying here knee pains, these knee pains, these elbow pains, these rib cage pains, and actually when she would have them, it wouldn't consume her, where she was in that problem-solving reality, constantly looking for the perfect solution and looking for that perfection and a perfect routine. You see does this making sense? And all of a sudden, her business started flourishing, because we started to look at another thing that we do, what I call the energy leverage week, where we start to look at, well, let's start to prioritize your zone of genius, and also let's start to prioritize what's working in your business. And lo and behold, as she started working more in that structure, well, what happened is all of a sudden it's like she started landing clients with much more ease, and less of her energy was in this whole, I gotta fix my body, that was unconsciously sabotaging her. So let me know if this makes sense, okay? So you see, if we didn't look at these things, then every time she would move towards money, every time she would move towards a new client, that unconscious false identity in the problem-solving reality would come up to try and protect her, because in the past, we all create these structures to actually protect ourselves. At one point, they were serving us, because if people were, let's say, not necessarily nourishing our natural pure self to want to create, to want to be who we are, then what happens is we naturally, out of survival, create these identity structures to protect. So if you were to work with me, what we do is we start to look at those, and we start to actually learn how to work with them as they come up, and as you move towards what it is you want to create, okay? So let me know if that is making sense, okay? Now, number 2, the question was, what do you think of when you think of your bank account, okay? And we talked about, I don't have enough, okay? So let's see which one kind of resonates for you. What happens? I don't have enough. They don't pay me enough. I can't seem to figure it out, okay? And fundamentally, all human beings we have some sort of shame, blame, or guilt. And so whenever we're moving towards what we want, whenever we want to move towards abundance, whenever we want to move towards wealth and well-being in our business, whenever we want to move towards our zone of genius and actually allow that thing to be the thing that we present and expose to the world, if we're not conscious of our shame, blame, or guilt stories around our money blocks, they will consciously come up as we move towards what we're trying to create to protect us. Okay? So when you talk about I don't have enough, shame is I am not enough. And guilt is I did something wrong. So I can't seem to figure it out. It's like there's something wrong with me. And so again, sometimes in the spiritual community, we think that we might be inherently broken. So we get into the, the spiritual, soul searching realm, constantly thinking like, okay, I gotta fix who I am. When really at our core, human beings naturally will always have some sort of shame, blame, or guilt. Blame is more of a victim state consciousness. You did it to me. My employers or their government is not paying me enough. So it's this blame consciousness, okay? And what we have to understand is none of these states create transformation. Transformation cannot come out of shame, out of blame, and out of guilt. But they're very seductive, right? It's like when we're trying to figure out our life or want to make more money, it can be very seductive to feel like I'm not enough, or it's your fault, or oh God, I don't know how to figure it out. There's something wrong with me, and it almost feels like we're doing something, but actually nothing's really happening. There's no transformation, okay, that's happening there. So look at that, right? So one of my clients, we were actually on the call last week, and we were working on a business strategy, okay? And so one of her things is she wants to start to move her business online. And so we started, working on proven business strategies that have worked for myself and for my clients. And we were looking at, her ideal customer avatar. And we were looking at, really deeply understanding the pain of our clients and really understanding what are they thinking and what are they doing and what are they feeling. And what was happening is she answered the question. She did a great job. And so then as I started talking about it more, all of a sudden, she's like, oh my God, okay, I did it all wrong. I did it all wrong. I did it wrong again. And this was sort of a pattern of hers that every time we move towards where she wants to go, okay, so moving towards, right here where, okay, I give me the strategies to move myself more online. How do I actually speak to, my clientele? How do I sell myself and market myself? So that's a whole other, training, and you can look down in the other videos below. And so essentially we were looking at that, and then right away this part of her came up. Okay, so if you were to work with me, we'd look at these parts, and that part of her started saying, oh my gosh, no, I don't understand, I'm confused and I'm overwhelmed. And all of a sudden there was this kind of visual shutdown. Her thoughts were I'm confused, I don't understand. And what she was doing was no, stop the show, whoa, And so as it came up, as a coach, sometimes what can happen is you start to oh God, okay, my business strategies they're not working, oof, and we start to actually buy into that part that is actually this survival mechanism that happens to protect, again, based on this problem-solving reality, based on the false identity structures. So what we did is, we start to lean in and get curious, right? And this is what we want to do with our money blocks is, so what is that part of you? What is that part of you trying to protect? What is that part of you? What does she need, right? And what came up for her was, she's, and how does she feel? And she's like, okay, she feels helpless And she's also protecting me from being exposed, right? So I think a lot of spiritual entrepreneurs, what happens is they have this thing, their zone of genius that is so close to their heart and their soul, that because you're bearing your heart and because you're bearing your soul, there's a part of our humanity that doesn't want that very dear part of us to be rejected, to be abandoned, or to feel lonely and alone. Okay? And often, again, it happens unconsciously, it gets imprinted. So when she was younger, she was an excellent student, would get like 100% on her tests. But then the sort of her kind of schoolmates would start to, come down on her and start to bully her for being so, so doing such excellent job in school. So she would actually dumb it down, and she would actually like make mistakes in order to protect herself. She would get a lower grade so that she didn't expose her zone, her excellence, her ability to do her work so well and have that amazing memory, right? And so what happened was that identity started to form where it's like, okay, no, I'm confused, I don't understand, I'm overwhelmed. Like, it would start to protect her so that she would be protected from that bullying. Is this making sense to you guys? Paige says, yes, this is a big block, okay? So, and the other thing Paige is saying is, because of my disabilities, I get some money from the government, and the mindset I feel sometimes is incapable, okay? Just trying to press see more. Okay, so thank you, Paige, for sharing that, okay? So here it is where, again, as I mentioned, we get imprints in the physical body where like literally we start to like, oh my God, no, I'm confused. Oh, it's all wrong. And then we get thoughts, it's all wrong, it's all wrong. And then we start to see like what we're doing, and we start to see, okay, I'm moving it towards into my zone of genius. And then it's like, no, I need to protect myself because I got bullied from before. Do you see? And so that part, if you were to work with me, what happens is we work with that. We give that part what it needs, and we learn how to work with it as it starts to come up when we start to move towards wealth, when we start to move towards well-being, when we start to move towards more money, when we start to move towards the vision we have as an entrepreneur. Because I think that's one of the most challenging things as an entrepreneur, is to have a vision in your mind and continue to take the steps towards it, because those unconscious blocks will constantly try to protect us. And if we're not conscious of them, and we actually don't have somebody to kind of hold us towards our vision and hold us in that place where when those false identity structures come up, when those parts of us come up, when the shame, blame, or guilt comes up, when the rejection comes up, when the abandonment comes up, when the loneliness comes up, if we don't have someone to shine the light on that part of us and shine the light on your vision, it can be kind of overwhelming, and we almost unconsciously sabotage our own prosperity. Okay, let me know if this is making sense for you guys. Okay, and so that's why it's important to start to really look at these things, because then what happens is, instead of trying to heal them away, like what I call it in this constant healing loop, we actually start to bring them towards the table. That's what the Buddha said, right? It's like, bring everyone to the table, have them have a seat at the table, and start to work with them. So in our program, what we do is we learn how to work with that part of you that, is going to come up every time you get, this is where you want to be, and it's like right here, and it's that kind of that block, that's that protector that helps protect you, because survival loves familiar. So even though you might have a certain block intellectually, your instinctual physical survival mechanism, your mental mechanism, and your energetic mechanism will come back to the familiar because it's something certain, it's something known, right? And so in our program, what we teach you is to look at the thing that we know and bring it a little bit closer to things that you don't know, in a way that transitions you from the unknown to something that you, from the known to something that you're not completely crystal clear on how to create more abundance, how to create more wealth in your business. And again, one of those things is learning how to work with your zone of genius. And the very first thing we do is we start to clear that. We start to clear that imprint in the body. We start to clear that imprint in the mind, the story that we tell ourselves, our money story. We start to clear or whatever story is going on, right? I'm not enough, there's certain stories that happen. And we start to literally clear the energetic grip. And with energy, the interesting thing about energy is that it's like this fuse, and we have a lot of energy resonating around a certain story, a certain feeling that we don't want to feel. And the cool thing about this energy, and the cool thing about your body, cool thing about your mind, cool thing about your energy, is that all of them are there to serve you, to show you the parts of you that we can now bring to the surface and look at and work with, instead of against or resist or try to kill it with the, when sometimes we think of killing the ego, we actually can work with. And so that energy, actually, if we start to realize how to allocate it into our zone of genius, into the vision of what we want to serve, what it is, like the program or whatever service we want to distill and create, and start to put it into the vision of our business, what starts to happen is that energy fuse actually starts to expand. So one of the things that we teach in our program is starting to literally energetically move that energy centered, because very often the energy is somewhere up here or somewhere over here or somewhere over here or a little bit all over the place, okay? And we literally start to learn how to center that energy and then thus expand it. Because what starts to happen when you start to allocate your energy into your zone of genius, start to create business strategies that actually work and that you can apply, based on where your nervous system is at with it, based on where your processing is with it, then what starts to happen is that you actually have more energy and you don't get drained and overwhelmed. This is really super important, because sometimes we run our business purely physical and purely mental, and what happens is we don't realize where those little parts of us get drained when we're putting our energy somewhere where it's not the most leverage. And sometimes we even put it in places where we're pretty good at something, but it still drains our energy. Okay, so that's one of the things we teach. This is Leverage Energy Week. Okay, so now last thing I want to talk about, number 3, you might have answered, I have more than enough. Okay, so this is great, okay, but it doesn't just stop there, because it's important to see if we feel like we have more than enough. We want to look at what type of earners we are, what kind of spenders we are, and we want to look at, do I just save it? Do I just kind of try to control it and just keep it all? Right? And I just keep on accumulating it. Or am I one of those where I just don't look at it. I just don't look at my bank account on a regular basis. You're aloof to it. Or do I overspend it? Okay? Do I feel like, I have more than enough, but I'm continually overspending? And the places you want to look at in spending is, where you're spending in your business, where you're spending in your well-being, your health, and where you're spending in your day-to-day, your life, your savings, but also your day-to-day expenses, okay? Because in order for money to flow, we want to start to think about, I learned this from Michael Beckwith, we want to start to think about it from this circulating place, where we want to start to understand, when I receive, I can give. And when I give, I can receive. So it just becomes this energetic flow of energy. Because if we just grip onto it and we try to control it and only save it, that energy flow doesn't happen. And when we don't look at it, also there's no energy flow because we're not even aware of what's happening with the flow of our money. And then lastly, if we're just giving it all out, then eventually what's going to happen is that abundance is going to drain itself, right? Because we're just kind of giving and not learning, okay, well, if I'm going to be investing my money, and that's what you want to invest your money so that it leverages back your time. Okay, because the more you can start to leverage back your time, the more you can start to spend in your zone of genius. Because when you're in your zone of genius, what happens, right? We feel expanded. We have more energy. We show up in our business and we're like, we're fully there, right? So more abundance equals more. And when we start to invest in our well-being, then what happens is it's kind of like when you're off work, what are you doing with your time? If you're just worrying or you're kind of draining yourself or distracting yourself or doing something that is not nourishing you, then again, your energy is being drained, right? So you want to start to understand, am I investing in my well-being? Because your well-being creates the abundance in your business, right? If I kind of slept at 3 a.m. and I was doing this workshop and then I came up in here and I'm like, okay, hey guys, like I might be here and I might put on a good show, but afterwards I'd be so drained. And then my actual life, with whatever, my day-to-day with my kids would not be prosperous. Okay, I'd probably be like, our interactions would not fuel abundance and prosperity and well-being. It would just actually create, resistance and contrast and frustration and anger. Okay, so let me know if that makes sense. So we want to start to think about our money, if you feel like you have more than enough, okay, in a circulating flow, right? And understanding that giving and receiving, understanding it from your business bucket, from your well-being bucket, and from your life bucket, right? Are you taking that money and also creating, taking some percentage? And one book you might want to look into is called Profit First, where it teaches you how to take your income and actually always give yourself profit, no matter how much. If you're making 10,000, if you're making 70,000, if you're making 5,000, you're always creating some kind of profit. So you have some savings for your life. You have enough for your business expenses. You have enough for your taxes. You have enough for your day-to-day, and you have enough for just silly spending. All of a sudden you want to buy, I don't know, that beautiful journal or that beautiful feather shawl. I don't know what it is, okay? So let me know if this is making sense. Okay, so Tracy says, after I get rid of debt, just a mortgage left, I now save more and towards certain goals. So that's not just for, and I can't, whenever I press it, I always did invest in my well-being with muscular dystrophy, and I felt it had to put it, but I also wanted to. And that's it. So, and this is where it's super important to invest in your well-being. Invest in your well-being, because when we have our cup, when we can fill our cup, especially as spiritual entrepreneurs, then we can give to our clients, then we can give to our family, then we can give to the greater good of the community. So that has to be the first step, and that's why the very first things we do in our program is clear the spiritual house. Understand how to do the 3-level clearing. Understand how to get grounded in the body. Understand how to process your emotions. Understand how to clear the mind. Understand how to master your energy. Then we can create. Okay, so we can't, again, create out of guilt because we feel like we're not doing enough for the world. We can't create if you're not, you feel shame and I'm not enough. Or we can't create out of blame, so that those things don't create transformation, right? So it's beautiful that now that you've filled your own cup, now it's overflowing, and now you can start to continue to invest that into your business. And so when you invest this into your business and into your life and into your well-being, what's going to happen, and especially if you align your business with what brings you joy, with the thing that you're absolutely amazing at, with the thing that makes you money, because sometimes people, they're not exactly sure what to do. And one of the things you want to ask yourself is, what can I do now based on my zone of genius that's going to make me the most money? Because let's face it, as an entrepreneur, you want to start to think of what's going to give you the most cash flow, right? There are many different ideas. That's the thing. You know, as creative beings, we have many, many different ideas. But if we kind of create this idea that it's going to take like 10 years at, you know, $10 to, and people have to buy 1 million of something of this, it's going to be very challenging to run your business from a place where you feel nourished, where you feel abundant, where you feel like your cup is overflowing and you have yourself to support, your family to support, and maybe if you're ready to hire a team. It's very hard to continue to invest in the vision of your business when you're undernourished in all ways, okay? And Paige says yes, okay? So one of the things I teach you guys is to start to charge at a premium. It's one of the things I teach you guys is to learn how to, one, heal your core wounds, two, distill your expertise, because everyone on this call has their zone of genius, their expertise, and then three, charge a premium. So that means charging at a 3K, 4K, 5K, 8K, 10K up, okay? And so we start to understand how to shift out of the lack, scarcity mindset into the abundance mindset. Because when we do that, when we start to really understand and value our own expertise, and we understand the transformation that we bring our clients through, the life-altering transformations we bring our clients through, the investment is not about the number, it's about what outcome we are giving our clients. So, for example, one of my clients, he literally could not get out of bed. He literally was so in this place where he felt depressed, where he just, had no energy. And within the week 4 of our program, he literally felt like a new person. Why? Because all of a sudden we went through, clearing the spiritual house, clearing the physical imprint, the mental imprint, the energetic imprint, learning how to get grounded in the body, learning how to clear the mind, learning how to process emotion, learning how to master energy, and then create the life that you want. Literally week 4, he literally was jumping out of bed. So you want to start to understand that it's not the amount that is going to change you, right? And same with your program. It's not the amount, it's what are you receiving, right? With the service that you're offering. And when it's this life-altering service, and when you're a healer, when you're a coach, when you offer transformation, just start to think of that value. Imagine 10 more years of not being able to get out of bed. What would happen to his health? What would happen to his family? What would happen to his job? Same for you guys. You all have these life-transforming, altering experiences that you've brought yourself through. So you have the assets. And what I teach you guys is how to distill those assets into a program and understand how to market and sell yourself, which is basically just speaking about your experience to other people and letting them know there is a way out of this. There is a way where you don't have to, be stuck, feeling stuck in your current position physically, mentally, energetically. Why? Because I've brought myself through that. Are you fully enlightened and fully perfectly perfect? No. But you've brought yourself through a certain transformation. So Paige and Tracy, I'm talking to you, let me know if that, resonates with you, resonates that you have brought yourself from that past, that imprint, from the situation that you have been put in, the body, the vessel that you have been given, and you've brought yourself through that, and you've created, maybe intuitively or consciously, you've created processes to move yourself and most likely people and clients through that, right? And so just you want to start to think about the value of that and what that really means for yourself and what that really means for somebody else. If that went on for 10 more years without a way of transforming, without a way of moving through it, without a way of having an understanding of where you can be, even in sort of these very challenging things that life gives us, right? Physically, mentally, and energetically. So think about those things, because that's the other thing that I start teaching you guys, is starting to understand really the true value and the true transformation you offer, because everybody is going to invest in what they feel they need. So if someone feels like they need to invest in a car, they're going to invest $20,000 there or whatever and up. If someone feels like they need to buy a house, they're going to invest millions of dollars or however, hundreds of thousands of dollars. If somebody needs a couch, you're going to invest that how much. So it's not the number that changes us. That's the very first thing I said at the very beginning, right? So if we can understand the way we spend $10 and the way we spend $10,000 is always going to be the same, unless we consciously understand, what is actually blocking us and where we actually want to go. It's never going to change. So if I put $1 million in all of your bank accounts today, you might get excited for a little bit, but if we're not conscious of our money blocks, something's going to sabotage that. There's going to be some amount of shame, guilt, or blame. There's going to be some identity structure that's trying to problem solve itself out of this, right? And the abundance, and that's the thing we have to understand, the abundance that already exists is not going to hold that abundance in the bank account. Because what we want to understand is abundance already is here. We live, and I talk about this a lot, we live in the Garden of Eden, right? And all we have to do is go outside and realize, wow, life literally is supporting me, right? Constantly, yeah. And I mean, just the very fact that you have this phone, the very fact that you're listening to this now, the clothes on your back, like we, as the privileged sector of the world, live in luxury, right? And that's the abundance that's going to be the byproduct of making more wealth, more well-being, more money, right? Okay, so sometimes we may confuse, the order in which things manifest. But the truth is, if we don't hold the frequency, if we don't tune into the frequency of abundance that already exists right now, any money that we receive is going to subconsciously slip out of our hands. Either we're going to try to control it, or we're going to just spend it all, or we're not really going to look at it, okay? So Tracy asks, is this why people who win the lottery can end up losing it all and wasting it all and go back to the lack of money? Exactly. That's exactly what happens, right? So so for example, if you had $10, there's a couple of ways you would spend it. One, you just spend it all. You're like, woohoo, you just spend it all. Two, you might put some in the bank and spend $5, okay? 3, you might be like, hey, Tracy, I got $10 and you just give it away. Here, let me give it to you all. And a lot of spiritual entrepreneurs, sometimes we think this is the noble thing to do, but then what happens? We're underpaid and overworked and undernourished, and then we can't actually be the light workers that we are here in the world. So we just give it away, right? Or sometimes we share. It's like, okay, here, I got $5 and you got $5 and here's $5 for you. And we share it, right? Or we save it and we're like, well, I'm not going to tell anybody I got $5. I'm just going to keep it, right? And then again, it stops the circulation flow, right? Or I got the $10, but I'm just not even going to bother looking at it, right? Or again, I'm going to just overspend it. So the way you spend $10 is the way you're going to spend however much you win in the lottery, right? It's $10,000. It's going to be the same exact thing. So again, I keep on driving this point home. The amount of money does not change you, right? And so that's why I want to start to look at that. So let me review, and I did promise a workshop at the end of this training. So before I do that, let's review. Okay, what we talked about was what happens in your body when you get paid, and what happens in your thoughts, and what you see yourself doing. What happens when you pay for something. So it's when you get paid, so when you receive money and when you give money. What happens viscerally, what happens in your thoughts, and what happens, what do you see yourself doing? Okay, super important to write that down. And then we start to notice that it's not the amount of money that changed you. So I keep on talking about that, right? We start talking about understanding that we can't create from running away from a problem that is perceived from our false identity. Right? So I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, I am not capable, I'm not perfect, I don't belong, I am not significant, okay? Then we start to understand we need to start to put and allocate our energy into the vision of our business based on our zone of genius, what we love, how we get paid, what pays us the most money, and what we're so good at, okay? And when we start to leverage that into what I call the energy leverage week, things start to shift, just like for my client who all of a sudden stopped sabotaging herself when she had the knee pain and the elbow pain, and she would just continually try to fix the I'm not perfect false identity. Okay, and then we start to look at what you think about. What do you think about when you think about the amount of money in your bank account? And we talked about I don't have enough. They don't pay me enough, I can't seem to figure it out. So it's either a shame story, it's a blame story, a guilt story, or it could be a little bit of all three. And we start to realize that transformation does not occur out of shame, blame, or guilt. It just doesn't. So we understand, okay, it's something that we might feel like it's doing something, but in reality it's actually not transforming. So when we start to look at that, we can start to work with it. We can start to bring that part of us that's trying to protect ourselves, right? Trying to protect, based on what has been imprinted way back when in your physical body, in your mind, and in your energy. And we learn how to work with that and bring it to the table and see how it's been protecting you and how you can work with it to move towards what it is you want to create. Because once you clear the spiritual house, then you can start to create. And that's one of the last parts of a program, is that we start to create what we want, and we just really discover, and we start to magnetize the clients, naturally magnetize towards us, because we're selling from this place of authenticity. We're selling from this place where when we clear the mind, we start to listen and hear the soul, what I call the soul's whisper. It starts to come in, and we actually start to trust that and take action steps and business strategy steps to and choices based on what is aligning with your soul. Okay, and then the other thing we talked about is I have more than enough. Okay, and we wanted to start to see, what type of spender and earner you are. Do I just save it all? I control it? Do I not look at it, so I'm kind of aloof with it? Or do I just overspend it? Okay, so that's super important. And so that's, in a nutshell, a workshop here for your money blocks. I really hope it was helpful. Let me know your biggest takeaways. And I did promise at the end of this that we're going to do a special little practice based on what I learned from Ken Honda. So if you have your wallet, okay, this is my wallet, and Christian Northrope taught me, when you have your money, you want it to feel good. So for me, that's why I bought this wallet, because my other wallet was so small and it was hard to take things out. And she, if you still carried, bills, she's like, have the bills nicely placed in your wallet, so when you take it out, it feels good, it feels organized. Okay, so it's not chaotic. So that's one thing. Now, if you have your credit card or money, okay, I want you to hold it in your hand. Okay, so you ready? Okay, So this is our fun little exercise at the end, my little bonus. I don't always do these little bonus meditations, but sometimes I do. This is one of our last workshops of the year, so I want this to be a good one. Okay, I want you to hold your credit card. I learned this from Ken Honda. Okay, and if your money could speak to you, what would your money say to you? And just listen. Okay? If your money feels like you're just saving it and you're just controlling it, it might say like, oh, you're just trying to control me so tightly. You're trying to hold on to me so tightly. Or maybe your money is saying, you don't even look at me. Don't even pay attention. Like, it's like that I don't exist. It just blah, right? Or you just keep on giving me away. You're just giving me away without thinking about it, right? So just see if your money can speak to you, what it would be saying. And I'm really curious for you guys, like what's happening, because I found this exercise so simple and at the same time so profound, and we're all energy workers here, so I don't think it's a far stretch to kind of hear and feel if your money could secretly speak to you what it is saying, okay? And then I want you to take some time, and even some time after this workshop, and I would review this workshop because there was a lot of juiciness in it. I want you to start to think, well, what's the new story, right, with my money for 2022, right? What's my story of abundance and prosperity? Oh, I'm gonna circulate you. I'm gonna continue to give and receive you, right? I'm gonna now start to really pay attention to you, really look at you, and really, be intentional about the way I hold you, and I give and I receive you. And I'm not just gonna give you away. I'm actually going to invest in my own well-being, in my own business, in my own life. I'm also gonna invest in that, okay? So take some time to notice the money story that's unconsciously running the show, and then take some time to rewrite it. And one of the most powerful things I do, right, is to one of my mentors taught me is to write in our journal, because writing is one of the very first things in manifestation, because you bring it out here into the world, out of the ethers and down here where you can actually see it, touch it, feel it, and it starts to start that like get the ball rolling, okay? So super powerful exercise, and what I really wish and hope for this workshop was it's something that's really going to set you up for the rest of your life, but for 2022, especially if you're kind of in the trenches and all of a sudden you want to shift out of that, or maybe you're in this abundance flow, but you're not sure, like you're kind of overspending, right? Want to set you up so that in 2022, this, we start to invest, we start to give and receive our money in a way that leverages our own zone of genius, that allows us to do what we love. And we're not just abundant in the bank, but we're also abundant in our joy, in our energy, in our whatever feelings we want to create for 2022. If you missed last week's workshop, I highly recommend how to set yourself up for abundance for 2022. It's a whole thing of a whole year-end review that you might want to do. So that's a super powerful practice. If any of this resonates with you, then DM me. Let me know, Jamie, I'm ready for a breakthrough yoga coaching call, breakthrough yoga discovery call. And what I do is I send you an application and I read through your answers, and I don't just read what you're saying, but I'm also reading, what it is that you're not seeing, what it is you're not feeling, what is the stuckness that is keeping you stuck from moving into the business and the life you truly want. Not the one that you're like, oh yeah, this is okay, I'm content. The one that your soul truly wants, your full potential. Okay, the one that you're like, oh my God, that would be like, angels are singing kind of thing, right? moving you towards there? What's keeping you stuck, right? And then I'll let you know, and I always talk about my program, our program. I'll talk about that and we can see if we're a good fit, right? So if you feel ready for that transformation, if you feel like you've been stuck for years, like my client who I interviewed 2 weeks ago, 10 years she was holding this vision in her heart. And finally, when she started working with us, it's like she's finally living that life, living that dream she's always envisioned. So if that is something that's calling to you, that's something that's resonating with you, where you have something that you know you want your business to align with your soul. You want to start living in prosperity and abundance from that place where you're fully congruent with what the soul is offering you and with what it is that you want to co-create with life, then it's time. So book the call, get the application. I'm going to read it. And then that's it. I'll be ready and waiting, and we'll work on that thing that's keeping you stuck so it can move towards what you truly want in your life and in your business. So my name is Jamie Hernandez. Thank you so much for being here, and I appreciate all your answers and your comments. If you're here for the replay, #replay. I want to hear all of your biggest takeaways and the answers to all the questions. So I will see you. This may be the last workshop for 2021. I may pop in for a meditation or two in the next couple of weeks. I'll announce it next week. But otherwise, happy holidays, everyone. Happy 2022. I wish you all of the abundance and prosperity that is coming your way. I feel it and I see it for you, and we can also collaborate together and we can see that vision come true together. Bye, guys. Thanks.